Welcome to a new episode of the brand called You, a video and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful people from around the world. Today, it is my privilege to welcome Mr. Bond, someone who I've known for a long time, someone who has done an incredible amount of work in the bond market and in the financial market. Sunil Jhaveri, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh.
Sunil is a leading mutual fund, bonds, and stock advisory expert in India. He refers to his company as Mr. Bond, and he's the author of two books. So, Sunil, tell me a little bit about what are the three key milestones in your life or career?
Sure. Many a times you must have heard this phrase called you always come to a crossroad.
Mhm.
But the unfortunate part in my career was that I've always come to a dead end.
Okay.
And I had to create my own path during those dead ends. So that crossroads have never come in my life. There were always those dead ends, and unfortunately, for no reason whatsoever beyond our control, it was more to do with regulatory issues, etc. So in 1992, when we shifted to Delhi, way back in 1990, I'm from Bombay. I'm a chartered accountant and a finance student right from day one of my starting of my career. I never practiced as a CA. So we shifted to Delhi in 1992, do a lot of business with these public sector undertakings like ONGC, Indian Oil, Power Finance Corporations, etc., who had huge treasury surpluses. But post Harshad Mehta scam in 1992, they stopped dealing with intermediaries. So that was the first milestone, as far as I can see, where I had to create we had to create our own path. Me and my wife started a company called MSJ Capital and Corporate Services Private Limited in 1994.
Mm.
Then another, the dead end which came into our life was in 2013 January. Many must be aware that SEBI as a regulator introduced direct as an option for investors to invest through.
Okay.
So they do not need the advice of advisors. You can actually go direct and the expense ratios will be lower.
Mm.
Again, for no fault of ours, and I was managing treasuries of only corporates, banks, and institutions, which was the institutional space.
Okay.
And practically all of them decided to go direct on one single day. So 95% of our business, which was built diligently, conscientiously over a period of from 94 to say 2013, went out of the window on one single day.
Wow.
So those are the two milestones in my life, which were more like dead ends, and I had to bounce back because I had to create my own path, as I said, instead of choosing one of the roads which happens on a crossroad.
That's fantastic. So, the other way to look at a dead end, Sunil, is to say it's a T junction. And you reach that end of one road, and then there are two on both sides. So, you can turn right or left, which is what you've done.
Absolutely.
That's fantastic. So, let's move on to Mr. Bond. Tell me about this venture and why you decided on the name.
Sure. So, let me explain to you how this name got to be attached with my name was because I was only managing treasuries of corporate bonds and institutions, which was primarily on the debt side.
Okay.
So, I, so to say, became an expert on the debt markets. And one of the magazines, which was an e-magazine for all the advisors across the country called Wealth Forum, the founder of that, Vijay Venkatraman, he gave me the name Mr. Bond, as in bonds and stocks.
Yeah.
So he gave me a column saying that Mr. Bond speaks. So that's where all the queries on the bond, stocks, mutual fund, debt side, etc., started getting published. My articles started getting published there. That name stuck with me. And then when as I said, I was at a dead end in 2013, and as you rightly said, right or left, I chose the path. There are obstacles in our journey. Either you treat obstacles as obstacles and brood about how the fate has been very, very unfair to you, etc., or you treat obstacles as instructions to move forward. And I did exactly that. I wanted to move forward.
Okay.
And that was a journey which I went to all the mutual fund CEOs and said, let me start training your relationship managers who come to visit us. Because they used to make loose statements saying, sir, short term acha lag raha hai. GSEC is looking very good because it has delivered 100% in last 1 month and so on and so forth. The story is behind us and you're trying to sell something which is not there, unfortunately.
That's fantastic. So, when I was reading about you, I was thinking when I started, working and I had a little surplus money, we used to go and put money in equities.
correct.
Market was small, and we used to make some money, lose some money. Today, the market has virtually shifted to mutual funds or very large amount, including, I think the government is pushing mutual funds, Sahi hai, with every cricketer and so on and so forth. For our viewers and listeners, tell me the difference between equity and mutual fund.
See, equity is basically you need to be really on the job to understand why you're buying that equity. You cannot buy equities based on hearsay and your cocktail party conversations and tips. So I always say that tips are for waiters, not for investors.
Correct.
So please keep that in mind because what your friends and family have invested and made some money on one stock or the other,
Hmm.
they will really talk about it and exaggerate, their profits, etc.
Correct.
But where they've lost money on those 10 stocks, they will not talk about it at all. So as stocks is a very, very difficult game if you wish to invest your own money yourself. I have been in the finance industry for the last 35 years. I do not have a demat account. I
Wow.
do not buy shares and stocks directly. I would rather go through the mutual fund route. I apply my strategies,
Hmm.
and that really is good enough as far as the investors' requirements and needs are concerned. And
Hmm.
according to me, mutual fund products and the transparency levels are so huge right now that anything and everything in terms of your needs can be fulfilled from the mutual fund route itself.
Very interesting. So, what are the risks associated with mutual funds then?
So risk are like the same. If you were to invest in equity, the risk of the market volatility will always be there. On the debt side, you have to understand that if you're coming from a fixed deposit mindset,
Hmm.
the debt side also can be volatile. And as people have seen, that there can be credit risk also, there can be interest rate risk also, and there can be liquidity risk also.
Okay.
But having said that, the benefit of diversification. Which is inherent in the mutual fund products is what helps the investors to ride through these risks also, and of course the professional management, the research behind it, etc.
Hmm. So, for example, if I want to buy a healthcare stock, what you're saying is that instead of buying one share of a pharmaceutical company, buy a mutual fund that invests in a whole basket of healthcare companies.
Absolutely, but I would go one step further because that's also a risk, by the way, by getting into a sectoral space. Unless and until you know when to exit out of that sector, there's no point in your investing because on paper you will see phenomenal profits because the healthcare sector or the pharma sector has done well over the last 2 years or so. But if you do not exit at the right times, it's all paper profits for you. So I always recommend to the investors that get into a multi-cap kind of a story where the fund manager will decide the sector, the fund manager will decide large cap, mid cap, small cap, and so on and so forth.
Interesting. Okay. So now tell me, I've often asked this for many questions, many advisors, and I'm going to ask you the same thing. Most of us who are putting money into mutual funds also have multiple classes of assets, which includes property, which includes gold and jewelry, which includes art. Why is it that the last three or the four are never considered worth managing?
Uh, it's a very, very important and valid question. The unfortunate part is that we treat the jewelry which you own or the property which you own as a multi-generation asset. So that's the reason why you never look at it on a day-to-day basis. But financial assets, which also should be treated as multi-generation, has never looked at as multi-generation, but it's looked at as if it's going to get over within my own generation. So I want to protect my capital. That's the first thought when it comes to your financial assets,
Mm.
which includes your fixed deposits, your mutual fund investments, and so on and so forth.
Mm.
But please understand that there is a beneficiary who can take that journey forward for the next 30, 40, 50 years also.
Right.
So the way you don't look at your property prices, have you ever had a conversation with your family and said, oh, today the property prices have gone through the roof, so let's sell the house and let's get into a rented accommodation? It never happens. But because that net asset value, which is getting declared on a day-to-day basis, we tend to look at our financial assets portfolios regularly, and that's where the investor behavior comes into play, the greed and the fear factor come into play, unnecessary action bias comes into play, And that's where investors most of the times do not make money.
This is the first time someone has explained to me this difference of multi-generational. I'd never thought of it, but that's a great explanation. So, Sunil, you are in the business of money where a huge amount of trust is needed to be able to, rely on everything that you're saying. What are the values that you have built into your business?
Sure. Mukesh Ambani gave a very interesting speech at an entrepreneurs forum and for the entrepreneurs that he lives by two basic principles. One is finding problem is more important than finding solutions. And the second one is treat your investors' money as your own money. And I exactly live by what he has said. I find many problems in the mutual fund industry, in the wealth advisory space also. And that's when I started challenging the wisdom of the traditional wisdom which we've been told, buy and hold, sip karo, bhul jao, do not time the markets, etc. And that's where I found that this is the root cause of all the problems. I asked the advisory community that did you buy and hold when the markets corrected by 60% during 2008-9? The answer is clearly no. We also panicked. Then how do you expect your investors to buy and hold during such volatile times?
Correct.
If buy and hold was supposed to work and last 25 years we've been speaking about it, then how come statistics reveal that investors stay invested in equity as an asset class for not more than 2 to 3 years? So, investors' money, if you treat it as your own money, first of all, my funda is very clear. If the answer to the question, will I invest my own money in this asset class or this scheme is no, I will not take my investors' money into that asset class or that scheme. Simple.
Okay, that's a great answer. So, when I was reading about you, you had made, there was a comment which said that you had predicted the meltdown in March 2020. Tell me more about this.
No, I have not predicted the meltdown of March 2020, but I apply common sense and logic.
Okay.
First time in the industry, somebody has spoken about exit strategy.
Okay.
We have been creating Abhimanyus who are stuck in equity Chakravyuh, and nobody has spoken to them in terms of when should they exit or when should they do profit booking.
Okay.
You know that Diwali is around the corner, and a lot of people play cards during Diwali period. So let's understand the mindset of a Diwali cards player versus an investor. So if you go with 10,000 rupees and if you make 5,000 rupees while playing cards, what do you do with that 5,000 rupees? You give it to your spouse and say, I will only play with that 10,000 rupees. That is exactly the mindset of an investor, but unfortunately, nobody's told him when should they exit. So that's the time when I started challenging this traditional wisdom of buy and hold and sip karo bhul jao. And I started creating my own exit strategies from SIP. There are only 3 ways of investing in equity: lump sum, SIP, systematic investment, or systematic transfer.
Okay.
I created an exit strategy on paper because I had to backtest it, and I created calculators from 2014 onwards. And I started playing around with numbers, and I converted markets into 3 zones: the red, yellow, and the green zone, the expensive, reasonable, and cheap valuation zone. And based on that, we created solutions which said when the markets are expensive, go into a conservative asset class, and when the markets are cheap, go back to aggressive asset class. So this cycle of moving from aggressive to conservative and vice versa is what I created on paper. Then I converted that into a transaction platform and trigger-driven investment solutions. So my platform is a B2B platform where advisors get their investors to invest through these trigger-driven solutions. My trigger of exit happened in July 2017. To exit out of equity and get into a dynamic asset allocation fund or any other conservative fund.
Okay.
From July 2017 to March 2020, markets were in absolutely red zone, which was the expensive zone. But the underlying, what people don't realize is that mid caps and small caps were bleeding. Only 10 stocks of Nifty 50 were doing well because of the liquidity which was driving the market. And that's the reason you are seeing Nifty scaling newer heights. Okay. And sure enough, since the markets were fragile, there was no fundamental backing to it. Coronavirus just became an excuse, and March 2020 markets corrected by 40%. Because we were in dynamic asset allocation fund, we avoided the entire meltdown, and we started. And the second call which happened through our system was on 23rd and 24th of March, which became the green zone for us. And that was system driven. So I have not done anything magical. It's just that I apply common sense logic. I have created these solutions, and that's what is guiding the investors and the advisors.
Well, I guess they all say common sense is the most important factor if you want to be able to, play the market and make money out of it. So let's speak about, we just referred to it in the beginning about Mr. Bond Speak. I know that you are, followed by many people. What you say is listened to by a lot of people. Tell me about this Mr. Bond Speak venture.
No, so Mr. Bong Speak was just, as I said, a column which was given by Wealth Forum to write my articles and share my thoughts. So whenever there was any crisis in 2013 when GSPL defaulted and Amtech Auto defaulted, etc. So that's the time when people used to in 2016 and in 2013 there was an income fund fiasco. They used to come to me to give my thoughts and bring sanity back into the system. So that's how it started. But then I realized that, and once I started doing this lecture series where I have trained, as I said, 60,000 IFAs across the length and breadth of the country by going physically to these cities, they used to come back and tell me, sir, we've never heard anybody speak like you, because I was not just an academician, I was a practitioner who was sharing my experiences. So they said, sir, you become my mentor, and if you can guide me on how do I take my investors journey forward.
Okay.
That gave me the idea of that, sitting in Gurgaon, I cannot mentor people physically in different parts of the country. So that gave me an idea of creating a platform which is www.mrbond.in, which is MISTERBOND.in. I got that domain thanks to my son's suggestion, younger one's suggestion. We registered it, and by the way, Mr. Bond is a registered trademark in India, and there is only one Mrs. Bond, that's my wife, as far as Indian context is concerned.
Okay, terrific. That's terrific. And, I think that also probably led you to train so many people. I mean, you've trained over 60,000 independent financial advisors.
Absolutely. And last 10,000 I would have done during this lockdown period itself. And that gave me an immense opportunity of interacting with larger crowds, because that, the Zoom and all the other platforms which are there on the digital side have really helped my line of business in terms of reaching out to wider audiences, in terms of reaching to even the investors at large, because we've done YouTube live and where 1,500, 2,000 people have attended the programs. So that really helped us during this lockdown period. So our, the entire fortunately for us, because of our videos which I create, so our MrBond.in has 5 verticals. One is the videos on different topics in the mutual fund industry. So I call it Netflix of the mutual fund industry. Then my articles, then we have got calculators to help them in different tools, transaction platform, and trigger-driven investment solutions. So that's the gambit which we have provided as far as these advisors are concerned. With they subscribe to it and then they guide their investors.
Terrific. So one more question before I move to some personal questions for you. Everyone likes to make money, and we all over the years have made money, lost money. This is the generation of the millennials and the Gen Zs who don't want to own any assets. What is your thought on how are they reacting to the financial industry?
Very interesting take. I think that COVID is going to be bringing some sanity back into their thinking of not living for the future, but living in the present. It's more to do with instant gratification rather than, delayed gratification. As our forefathers used to say, save for the rainy day. Unfortunately, that's not being followed by the youngsters. But, if you guide your kids it can actually happen that they can start saving for the rainy day from day one of starting of their career. Okay. When my elder son started his articleship with EY, from that meager internship what he used to get as the money which for those articleship, the stipend as they call it, I made sure that he started investing in SIP format from day one of starting of his career. And by now, he's already a chartered accountant and working with NBFC, one of the well-known NBFCs in Mumbai. And within a span of a very short period of time, he has amassed a sizable chunk of money as far as his wealth is concerned, beyond what we would have saved for him. So it is the question of making the millennial understand the importance of saving and investing. See, what I say is the wealth creation is the byproduct of your saving and investing habits.
Mhm.
It cannot happen automatically. And during this COVID period, people would have realized the importance of, first of all, saving. And because there are hardly any expenses which are happening currently, I'm sure they are saving a lot of money, but I would only urge that they should invest that money also.
Very nice. So I've got time for a few questions for you personally. Sunil, you've, as you said, hit many roadblocks, successful entrepreneur, built a large portfolio. What does success mean to Sunil?
Success means that if I have made a difference in the lives of my advisors who are my customers right now, that is success to me. If it brings smile on their face, I've got many messages when March correction was avoided totally. People have gone to the extent of saying, "Sir, aap Bhagwan ho." I said, "I'm not no God. I'm just a common man who has used his common sense and logic. I don't get swayed by this authority bias of various people saying that market is going to go to 45,000 or 50,000 and so on and so forth. These predictions are useless. So I don't go by all that. For me, success is that if I'm able to make a difference in the lives of the others, and that gets acknowledged on social media or on public platforms, that to me is a huge achievement as far as I'm concerned.
And my follow-up question to that is that you keep doing so many different things. Where do you get your inspiration from?
I don't have any one particular person, but I think life has been my inspiration. Life has been my teacher, and life has given me lots of experiences, good, bad, ugly. But I've always taken the positive side of it. I'm a very positive person, so I never get bogged down with the negativity around me. I surround myself with positive people, positive thoughts, and that's what goads me to move on in life.
Wonderful. So I've got to ask you my last question now. You just gave me the example of your son and how you started him off on his SIP journey. What would your advice be to the thousands of young people who listen to your and my conversation on how to start an investment portfolio?
Yeah, so investment portfolios, first of all, as I said, most basic thing is start saving. You should have at least most of the younger generation are actually living with their parents currently, especially during this pandemic time. So they may not be paying any rent. They are not spending any money on the outings also currently. So all this is where we start saving and investing is an extremely important point. But more importantly, I would like to give 3 life lessons which Indra Nooyi had pointed out. And I have lived my life exactly on those 3 life lessons. One was be a lifelong student. I have been a lifelong student. I don't get carried away with this authority bias, hearsay, and WhatsApp forwards, etc. And be patient. Be extremely passionate about what you do. I'm as passionate. I had done a road show where I had to travel 9 cities over 11 days and conducted almost 25 lectures during those 11 days. So I'm extremely passionate about what I do, and that shows in my work also. And the third and the most important thing is empower others beneath you. And that's what I have believed in. And that's the reason why I changed my line. Of course, I was forced to change my line, but I converted myself into trainer to start with these advisors, the relationship managers, the wealth managers of banks, and public at large is what I'm trying to do by giving my experiences and sharing my thoughts with them.
Wonderful. Sunil, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure speaking to you. I wish you, Mr. Bond, all your financial advisors, lots and lots of success.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Ashutosh. And I wish you also all the success because you're also doing a great job.
Thank you so much. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.